the Hobie Tiger is still, as it approaches its 30th anniversary, a great ride, offering some of the best performance for your money. As well as being an extremely useful buyer's guide, this could also be useful for anybody who's selling their Hobie Tiger to see what buyers might be looking for and things that you probably should check before listing your boat. We're going to be looking at the parts of the boat that you should be looking at. We're going to be looking at what were the best years that the Tiger was in production. And then we're going to finish off with how much should you be paying. What we want to look at is, are there any soft bits on the hulls? So one of the most common soft parts on the hulls might be the foredeck. So we're going to kind of give it a bit of CPR and see if it flexes. We're then going to go all the way down the hulls on the outside, giving it a good push, and then we'll do the same on the inside as well. When we're looking at the hulls, we also would like to have a visual inspection, looking for any cracking or damage. We're just having a look. This one's had a bit of a repair here. Doesn't look too serious, shouldn't be too much of a problem, but it'd be nice to have that finished off. Good idea to look around the hatch covers for any cracking around there. The hatch covers are a bit of a weak spot on the deck. And then quite important to have a look at the transom of the hull, the back edge, for any cracking around here. And while we're here, we could just take a look at the Gudgeons as well. This is the style of Gudgeons on the more recent Tiger. There is a different style that you might have, and we'll just look to see if this is intact. Also, a good idea with the Gudgeons is just kind of pull it from side to side and see if they move. If they move, that can be a warning sign that there's something going on. It might just be that the bolts need tightening, but it could be something a bit more sinister. So ask the vendor if you can just tighten those bolts up to see if that movement stops there. If the seller invites you to put the boat on its side so you can investigate the bottom of the hulls, then that would be great. But most times that's not going to be likely. So you're going to have to get on the floor. So we're going to get on the floor and we're going to have a look at the bottom of the hulls. So we're looking for any wear on the bottom of the hulls. Again, we're going to look all of the way along the bottom of the hulls, looking for anything that doesn't look good. One place where things might be going on is around the Dagger board cases. So we're going to have a really good look there. So if we've got the boat on the trolley like this, if we can get somebody to push down on the bow so you can really get under the Dagger board cases and have a look inside those bad boys, that is going to be very useful. So we're going to have a look right down there, looking for wear at the back. We can see in this one there is a bit of wear at the back there, and there's something going on towards the bottom at the back on the downside. It's probably just cosmetic, but worth knowing anyway. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is the rudder blades. So we're obviously going to go to the back of the boat, as well as having a visual inspection of the rudder blades, looking for any chipping or around this area. If there's any cracking, those are warning signs that your rudder blades may need replacing. But the most important thing to look at with the rudder blades is, again, we might have to get under the boat a little bit here, is we're going to look at this join here. And if this join is separating, then that means that the rudder blade has lost its structural integrity and may need replacing. Okay, so we're now going to take a look at the traveller cars. So just when you run these along, they should run freely without any sticking points or grinding sound. Of course, if you are looking at an older boat which is less money, this might not run quite so smoothly, so it is well worth having a look. While we're here, we could also look at the cleat for the traveller, for any movement here, this one's got significant movement and requires a repair. All of these repairs are going to cost you either time or money, so worth just checking if you've got a choice of different boats that you're looking at. While we're here, we can also take a look at the main sheet system. The more modern Tigers use the Harken blocks like this. These are excellent, but the older Tigers, one of the bonuses with those is they came with Lumar blocks, which were very expensive if you were going to buy one, and they worked absolutely brilliantly. But just one thing to check with the block is turn the middle wheel on the block, and then if it doesn't click, we just flip the switch. There we go, and we want to make sure that that ratchet is engaging there. The top block, it's worth just checking that there's no real movement in any of the pulleys there. These are all things that shouldn't necessarily stop you from buying the boat, but may cost you a little bit to replace after the purchase. Checking the tiller extension is a good idea. Again, it's just going to cost you money to replace if it's not in good shape. So this is a classic Hobie Cat Aruba stick. Now, what can happen with these sometimes, these telescopic extensions, is if they've been locked too hard, there may be cracking running down here. If there's cracking running down here, be careful for fiberglass splinters in your finger. If there's cracking running down here, then that tiller extension is destined for the bin. Okay, so we're now going to look at the front beam and the mast on the boat, and what we're looking for is anywhere where there is stainless steel or inox up against the aluminium. If you can see any signs of corrosion underneath there, then that could be a warning sign for there's something really sinister going on there. If it's just a little bit of discoloration, then that's not bad. By the way, this yellow stuff is a paste that stops this chemical reaction from happening, but worth checking. Again, you might not have the facility for tipping the boat on its side, but what's going on at the bottom is definitely going to be worse than what's going on higher up, because this part of the mast is getting more spray, it's seeing more action. And then on the front beam, the main point that we need to look at is around where the mast sits, and see if there's any cracking or that corrosion going on there. And then we'll go underneath as well and check it out from underneath the boat. So we're just looking for any cracking or corrosion. We want to take a look at the dagger boards, of course. Now, it's unlikely that you're going to be lucky enough to find dagger boards quite as jazzy as these bad boys. But again, we're just looking for any chipping or scratching or anything going on with the dagger boards. Anything that's wrong with them isn't necessarily a don't buy the boat sign, but it is going to cost you either time or money. So if you're selling the boat, it is worth putting a bit of time into getting your dagger boards and your rudder blades tidied up before putting the boat on the market. Clearly here, this is quite a new trampoline, very good condition. If the boat that you're looking at has got an original Hobie trampoline, which would be a black one like this, where we've got this greying sign here, this can be a sign that the material is coming towards the end of its natural life. So with a trampoline like this, I'd expect that it would need replacing in the next 3 to 5 years. Also, while we're looking at the trampoline, what is the integrity of the toe straps? Again, not a don't buy point, more time and money if they're not quite right. We then want to take a look at the sails, of course. Now, original Tiger sails are made from mylar, which is this kind of plastic feeling material. As we start at the top of the sail, just take a look at the hook at the top, see if that's still got a good shape like that. Look at the top of the sail, is it coming away? Check all of the batten pocket ends, because down here, this can start to split. Again, it's just going to cost you a bit of money at a sailmaker to get that repaired if it is splitting. And then just have a look at the general condition of the sail, looking for anything that is pretty obvious. Like on this one, she's had a repair here. These places are quite common for the sails to develop problems in their later life. If it starts splitting here and you continue sailing with it, then you could actually rip the sail in half. While we're checking, we can also check to see, are the battens all of the same construction? So the original Tiger battens are these foam construction ones. That's what we want ideally. If they're not, it's better that they're at least all of the same construction. The same thing goes for the jib as with the mainsail. So have a good look at the jib and do check the zip on the jib as well, because again, if that's not working, that might need a bit of a trip to a sailmaker. What we're looking for with the Spinnaker Shoot is that the sock part of the chute is intact and it's not split anywhere, or there's not, like the back of the Spinnaker Shoot, like here, again, quite prone to damage. So worth having a look. Again, it's just going to cost you a little bit to get those sort of things repaired. So this one has quite clearly got something going on here which would need a repair, so worth taking a look there. Okay, so then we're going to take a look at the Spinnaker itself, and what we're hoping for is a bit of crispiness in the sail, so it kind of rustles when we touch it. If it feels very limp, and perhaps if it's lost its colour, then that is another sign that this might need replacing soon. Places where the Spinnaker can experience failure is the corners. So we're just looking for any discoloration on the corners of the sail. And then the final place that we're looking for is around the retrieval points, because these are under a lot of strain and they're going to lose the shape a little bit if the boat has been well used. But we're looking for any small tears or discoloration around those bad boys as well. Okay, so the final thing we should take a look at is the rigging and the lines on the boat. The rigging, like we've said before, if it hasn't been replaced in the last 5 years, you are going to need to replace that. A complete set of rigging is going to cost you somewhere in the region of about £300. The first edition Hobie Tigers were between 1995 and 1997. Now, I personally would steer clear of this edition of the Tiger, as there were quite a few points which weren't yet ironed out at that time, mostly with the fittings and the layout of the boat. Again, if it's a very cheap boat and you want to get on the water, let's not rule it out completely, but if you have the option to go for a later Tiger, then I would certainly spend a bit more and go for that. The next edition was between 1998 and 2002. This is what I would call the standard classic. Not a bad choice if you want a cheaper boat and you're not worried about a Spinnaker Shoot or a self-tacking jib, as this was before those parts were introduced. The trampoline on this version still slots into the hulls. Now, there were problems with the trampoline slotting into the hulls. Ask the seller if he's had any problems with the trampolines pulling out. If yes, then you may need to retrofit a more modern loose-sided trampoline. Now, from 2003 to 2006 was the third edition of the Tiger. In terms of value, I'd say this is probably the sweet spot, because this is when most of the problems were ironed out, but it just wasn't quite the same as the completely most modern boat. We've got a loose-sided trampoline. This is a massive improvement. We've got a Spinnaker Shoot, self-tacking jib, streamlined boom, modern spreaders, all in a much more user-friendly boat than the previous edition. And then we have the 4th edition, which is from 2007 onwards. From the previous version here, the most noticeable feature is the redesigned rudder blades and gudgeons. This makes for more precise handling and a lighter feel with slightly more high aspect rudder blades. These boats also had a different bulkhead and subdeck structure inside the hulls, which made for a stiffer hull. Now these guides would be just if you're buying from a private seller. If you're buying from a dealer, expect to pay about 20% more, but the boat from a dealer will have been fully checked and refurbished, so you've got that peace of mind if you're buying from a dealer, but it is going to cost you a bit more. The 1st edition, if you can find one, I certainly wouldn't want to pay more than about 2,000 units of currency. And then, as with all boats that you're buying, if there's any extras thrown into the deal, such as a launching trolley, a road trailer, a cover, things like that, that is all going to sweeten the deal. The 2nd edition, about £3,000 or euros if it's in pretty mint condition. The 3rd edition boat, anything between 2,500 and 5,000, again depending on the condition and if there's nothing on the list wrong with the boat. The 4th edition, the most modern boat, if it's in absolutely mint condition, I would expect to pay from a private seller about £7,000, euros or dollars. But again, might be a few extras thrown in which could push the price up somewhat. So there we go. I hope that was helpful, informative and slightly entertaining. I'll be back soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Check out this video on sailing a Tiger around the course. If you haven't yet seen that one, that could be helpful if you are buying a Tiger.